السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Just want to make sure that I am audible. So if there's somebody who has joined us, can confirm that the audio is clear. Jazakallah khair. So I'm hoping, inshallah, everybody had a good weekend. Alhamdulillah, we had a good series of programs lined up, and by Ustad Faisal, Dr. Abdul Bari, and Sheikh Saad. So I'm hoping everybody benefited, inshallah, from that. So inshallah, today we'll continue with the series of scenes from the Seerah. So just as people are trickling in, if we can do a quick recap. What we talked about with the life of the Prophet ﷺ was we divided into a few parts, right? The first part was his the history and his lineage, right? Again, I'm going to try and make sure that I'm not too small when I write that. So his lineage and his history. The second part was his birth. The third part was his early youth, his youth, meaning his 20s, 30s, and his 40s. We saw how great of a character he had. He was married to Khadija, and then at age 40 was the revelation. Then we had the early Meccan period. We had the two Meccan periods, right? The early and the late. The first part of the Meccan period, where the Meccan, the Muslims were tortured and persecuted. The second part of the Meccan period, where some of them migrated to Abyssinia, and then finally was the Hijrah, and that's sort of where we had left off. The Prophet ﷺ finally reached Madinah al-Munawwara. He established a masjid. He established brotherhoods between the Muhajirin and the Ansar, and then at this point they were at a relative peaceful situation, you could say, where they were not being actively persecuted. So in Medina, again, like I said, they now had a little bit of breathing space to establish their own community, and the Prophet ﷺ was doing that. And then the Ansar and the Muhajirun, the people who migrated, and the helpers, who were the people of Madinah al-Munawwara, they were joined in brotherhood. Now, there is one name that I want you to remember that will keep coming up at different times. This name is Abdullah bin Ubay. So Abdullah bin Ubay as-Salul, he was a person from the tribes of Medina. And if you remember, there were two tribes of Medina, Aus and Khazraj, which were at war with each other until the Prophet ﷺ came in and joined them. So he was going to be a leader of these two tribes. He belonged to one of the tribes, I forget which tribe it was, but he was eventually going to be the leader. But his dreams were basically broken apart with the Prophet ﷺ now coming in, and he harbored a lot of anger because of that. So he would secretly contract with the Quraysh and the Meccans to be leaking out the plans of the Prophet ﷺ and giving them an idea of what's going on in Medina. So he would pose as a Muslim. He was posed as a Muslim, so he was essentially a hypocrite, right? And that's where we talk about the hypocrites in Medina. So he would be their chief, and at different parts of the Seerah, you would see that he would try to hurt the Muslims posing as a Muslim. Now, as the Muslims are in Madinah al-Munawwara, they're still not safe. I mean, they're in relative safety when compared to Mecca, but they're still, the Meccans have not let them alone. The Quraysh, the Mushrikeen have not let them alone. They still want to destroy them because they've escaped. The Prophet ﷺ was able to trick them and escape, and they still have that enmity. So they're still looking at ways to somehow harm the Muslims. And it's at this point that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the Muslims the permission to fight to defend themselves. Now, The first battle that takes place is the Battle of Badr. And this is a very, very famous battle, and we know bits and pieces of it. So inshallah, what we'll try to do is talk about the circumstances of the Battle of Badr. So the Muslims, what they're doing is they're trying to economically hurt the Quraysh, right? The Quraysh have taken up their properties. They have held some of their family hostage because some of the Muslims, not all the Muslims, were able to migrate to Makkah al-Mukarramah, to Medina al-Munawwarah. Some of them were kept hostage in Makkah. And the Quraysh basically have looted all the property of the Muslims in Makkah, right? So what the Makkans the Muslims are trying to do is try to hurt them economically by attacking their trade caravans. So if you look at the map of Saudi Arabia, current day Saudi Arabia, Makkah is more south, Medina is more north, right? And then all the tribes, the caravans from Syria would have to pass Medina in order to go to Makkah. So if they were intercepted in the middle, then the Muslims can cause some economic damage to the Quraysh, and that's what their intention was. So that had happened, that continued to happen at different times, but at this particular time, there was a huge caravan having a lot of wealth that is now going from Syria back to Makkah al-Mukarramah, and this is being led by Abu Sufyan. And he later becomes Muslim, but he's a Qurayshi leader, young amongst the Qurayshi leader, and he's returning back with a large caravan full of goods. So the Prophet ﷺ finds out about this caravan, and he gathers about 300 odd men, and their purpose is not for battle. Their purpose is to attack this caravan of Abu Sufyan and grab their wealth. So the Prophet ﷺ gathers about 300 people. About 80 of those people are from the Ansar. 80 of those people are from the Muhajirun. 60 people are from the Aus tribe of the Ansar, and 170 people are from the Khazraj tribe of the Ansar. So about 330, some reports, the most common report is 313. So we'll go with that report. 313 people joined together, and now they are going to try to attack the caravan of Abu Sufyan and get the loot back to Medina, or get the goods back to Medina. And no one can make the argument this is a robbery, because this is war going on, right? What is the first thing that a country that is a war with another country does? Tries to hurt it economically. They put sanctions. They try to attack their military targets. They try to weaken their infrastructure. So that's very common knowledge and common stratagem of war. So no one can make that argument that the Muslims are oppressors here. As a matter of fact, they're defending themselves. So now the Prophet ﷺ divides the army into multiple battalions. Some of them are led by the Ansar, some of them by the Muhajirun. And then they're all going towards this place called Badr. And Abu Sufyan, in that while he happens to find out that the Muslims are coming with 300 people. So what does he do? He sends a messenger, right? He sends a messenger to the Quraysh. Now, this is a very dramatic fashion how he sends the messenger. This guy, he tears his clothes, sits, turns his saddle around on the camel, and he's pretty much running into Makkah, shouting, and he even cuts the face of the camel, like the lips and the nose of the camel. And so he's entering in a very dramatic fashion, shouting and gathering the attention of the Makkans, saying, "Oh, people of Quraysh, your caravan is being attacked by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So go out and defend." Now, as soon as the news comes back in, these are the goods of all the Makkans, right? They want to defend it. Immediately they gather, led by Abu Jahl. And then there are about 1,300 people, and that number changes later on because a few people leave. But he gathers about 1,300 people, and now he's headed towards the Muslim army in order to engage them so that they can defend the caravan of Abu Sufyan. Now, meanwhile, what does Abu Sufyan do? He's a very smart person, right? So he changes the normal route of the caravan and takes a completely alternative route and bypasses the Muslims. So the Muslims are not able to intercept Abu Sufyan. He essentially escapes and pretty much comes back to Makkah, right? Now, by the time he's come back to Makkah, the Quraysh have already left. So he sends a message to the Quraysh saying, "Listen, come back. We don't need to fight anymore. The caravan is safe. We don't have to engage the Muslims. Don't worry about it. Just come back. We're all good." The Quraysh, however, have different plans, especially Abu Jahl. Now he's saying, "Okay, we're out. We want to stamp out the Muslims once and for all. We want to kill the Prophet ﷺ. We want to teach this new Ansari group that has come out to support the Muslims. We're a strong group and we can do it. We can defeat them. So they go ahead and they want to engage them. So now the face-off takes place in a place called Badr. Now, if you look at the numbers, right? If you look at the numbers, they're actually pretty staggering. The Muslim army, right? They have about 313 people, right? Like we said, they've got just 2 horses and 70 camels. So 1 camel had to be shared between 3 people. And the Prophet himself shared the camel between the 3 people, with two other Sahabi, right? So this is the Muslim army, and this is the Qurayshi army, right? They have 1,300 people to begin with, but when the news comes that the army is, the caravan has escaped, 300 people return back. 300 people return back. They don't listen to what Abu Jahl says, so they're essentially saved in one way. And then they're diminished to about 1,000. And amongst those 1,000, they have 100 horses, all fully cavaliered, all fully armed and loaded. And then they have about 600 camels, right? So you can consider in those times, these are like, what you could call as war vehicles, like planes or tanks, or ships or whatever you want to call it, what people used to fight. So you can see how ill-equipped the Muslim army is, right? The ratios are dismal. Like if you do any kind of averages or probability, it should be a slaughter for the Muslim army, right? So now the Prophet ﷺ, he finds this out. These are the numbers. He gathers all the Muslims, and now he's talking to them, and he wants to see what he wants to consult with them and to see what their opinions are, right? The Prophet ﷺ says, we're now going to face this large army. What do you have to say? So immediately the Sahaba, they reply, and the first one to reply is obviously Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu. He immediately says in support of the Prophet ﷺ. Umar radiyallahu anhu also says in support of the Prophet ﷺ. And then there's another Sahabi, his name is Miqdad radiyallahu anhu. He says, Ya Rasulullah, we're not going to tell you what the people of Moses alayhi salam told him, what the people of Musa told him, that you and your Lord go fight. We will be with you till the end. So the Prophet ﷺ listens to all of them, but he's still quiet. And he says, tell me, advise me, my people. So these are all the Muhajirun that are talking. Now he wants to listen from the Ansar, right? The Ansar always had protected the Prophet ﷺ, but if you look at the initial deal in Aqaba, it was that we will protect the Prophet ﷺ in Medina. Now, obviously, they're not going to leave him like that because they did go out of Medina with him. But the Prophet ﷺ wants to see what their opinion is. He wants to listen to them from their own. So Sa'd bin Ma'ad radiyallahu anhu, who is the Ansari Sahabi, the leader of the Ansar, one of the leaders of the Ansar, he says, Ya Rasulullah, if you tell us as a group, if you tell us to plunge into the sea, you will see that we will all do it. None of us are going to stay behind. And we are a group that fights well. And inshallah, you will see, Allah will make you see through us the victory. So Prophet becomes very happy, he smiles, and he gives them the glad tidings of victory. And on that night, when the Muslims and the non-Muslims are gathering, there is a rain that happens. And that rain actually is beneficial for the Muslims because it gives them a firmer ground, and it actually hurts the people of the Quraysh. Now, Badr basically is the place where this battle is going to happen, right? And so you have the Qurayshi army, like we talked about, let's just say over here, and you have the Muslim army over here, right? And there are a number of bells in the middle, right? There are a number of bells in the middle. So the Prophet ﷺ comes up with the army, and supposing they camp right here, right? So one of the Sahabi, his name is it's kind of blank. I'm blanking on it. Yeah, Hubab bin Mundir is his name, and he asked the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Rasulullah, is this a revelation? Is this a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we camp over here? Or is this something that you're thinking as in terms of strategy of war? The Prophet ﷺ says, no, this is open to consultation, open to discussion. This is what the decision that I made. Then he said, Ya Rasulullah, there's a better plan, which is that we go a little further and we capture the wells, because water in the desert, is pretty much in one way an ammunition. So if we go and we capture the well, there's a big well. If we can capture this well and we destroy the rest of the wells, we can actually prevent the Quraysh from reaching it, and we'll have an advantage. Prophet ﷺ accepts that decision, And they move onwards and they capture the well, and then they make the other wells unviable. And the Prophet ﷺ is now, he's put in a tent, right? He's put in a tent, and you have the Sahaba that are guarding him. Sa'd bin Mu'adh and the rest of the the prominent Sahaba, they're guarding the Prophet ﷺ. And the entire night he's praying. He's praying the entire night. Now in the morning, which happens to be the 17th of Ramadan, Badr does take place in Ramadan. On the 17th of Ramadan, the Prophet ﷺ gathers all the Muslims, and then he gathers them in one line, and he's praying. He's praying throughout the night, he prays, and through the morning he's praying. And Abu Jahl, who's the leader over here, he's praying himself. And one of the things that Abu Jahl does, he says, he makes a prayer almost against himself. He says, "Oh Allah, whichever one of us is the wrong party, you get rid of him. You get rid of them." So obviously, throughout their history can attest to how wrong the Qurayshi Makkans were. Now, initially, when the battle happens, it's not an all-out battle. Some of the men from the Quraysh, they try to come and capture the bells, like as they suspected. So Muslims shoot some arrows and they kill them. One man again tries to come in to get the big well, get near this well, and Hamza radiyallahu anhu comes and kills them. Then that's like the initial skirmishes, right? Then the Quraysh say, "Look, let's do one-on-one," because it was a tradition in that battle in those times that the battle would start out one-on-one. So the Quraysh send 3 of their best, right? They send Utbah bin Rabi'a, okay, his son Walid, and Utbah's brother, his name is Shayba, right? Utbah's brother's name is Shayba. So you have Utbah, Walid, and Shayba. They're all from one family, right? And then when they come out, 3 Ansari Sahaba come out to face them. When they look at them and they say, "Look, we don't know who we are, and we don't have any beef against you guys. We're looking for our cousins. We're looking for our people that fled away from us. Send them." So the Prophet ﷺ then sends 3 people. Utbah is faced by Ubaidullah bin Harith. Ubaidullah is the one who faces Utbah, and then Hamza radiyallahu anhu is the one who faces Walid. It's Ali radiyallahu anhu who faces Walid, and Shayba is faced by Hamza. Right? So this is the one-on-one battle that starts. Immediately as they go on, Hamza radiyallahu anhu, within a few seconds, eliminates Shayba. He's out, right? Ali radiyallahu anhu is attacked by Walid. He maneuvers, escapes the blow, kills Walid. Walid is down. And then Utbah and Ubaidullah are having a battle now. And Ubaidullah manages to hit Utbah, but he gets severely injured. He gets severely injured in his leg. So before Utbah is able to do anything, Hamza, who's now killed Shayba, jumps up and he kills Utbah. And he carries Ubaidullah back into the army. He carries him back into the camp. So immediately, the 3 top generals of the Quraysh, the 3 top fighters of the Quraysh are just slaughtered right there. And the Prophet ﷺ says, immediately, you hear the chants of Allahu Akbar. And then the Prophet ﷺ, at this point, he's making dua, Ya Allah, and now the battle is all up, because the Quraysh, they see this, they're extremely angry that their men are gone, and now 1,000 men are marching towards 300 men, right? With all their horses, with all their camels, they're marching towards the 300 men. The Prophet ﷺ at this time is making sincere dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he says, Ya Allah, if these people are defeated today, you will no longer be worshipped. To a point that his outer garment falls down. And Abu Bakr, who's right next to the Prophet, says, Ya Rasulullah, stop, Allah will accept your dua. And he sees the pleas that Rasulullah is making. Abu Bakr is confident that we will win this battle. And as soon as the Prophet makes a dua, immediately Jibreel alayhi salam comes down with 1,000 angels, right? Angel Jibreel comes down with 1,000 angels, and they're fully equipped, ready to fight. And the Prophet ﷺ is commanded to throw a fistful of sand towards the Meccans. And as soon as the Prophet ﷺ does that, there's a sandstorm that starts to appear and starts to blow in the direction of the people of the Quraysh. And as soon as that happens, they're not able to see. And now all of a sudden, they're kind of retreating because they're just sort of confused. They're not able to see. And now the 300 Muslims, they start attacking. And amazing things happen during this attack, because they are now being supported by angels, right? One of the Ansari Sahabi says, they would have like twigs, because they're not even well equipped, right? And they would hit people with sticks and twigs, and they'd see heads flying off. And when they look up in the sky, they see like angels on horses. Now they don't recognize that they're angels in the shape of men. So there's like almost an extra reinforcement army. Abbas radiallahu anhu, who's the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, and who now he never wanted to be a part of this army, but he was forced by the other Makkans because he was also a prominent member of the Quraysh. He was forced by the army to come. So one of the Ansari Sahabi, he captures Abbas radiallahu anhu. Abbas radiallahu anhu is a very huge and strong person, and this Ansari Sahabi is like a really thinly built, not strong at all. He goes ahead and he captures him, and he takes him back to the Prophet ﷺ, and he brings him to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ, Abbas ﷺ says, "This man didn't capture me," and he says, "No, I am the one who captured you." He says, "No, there was a big, strong man who had an extremely beautiful face, and he appeared to be extremely strong, and he's the one who captured you." The Prophet ﷺ says, "Yes, that was an angel that captured you." So amazing instances happened during the war where the Muslims are attacking the Quraysh with their measly, and I don't want to call it measly, but very, very minuscule weapons, and the Qurayshi army is just being slaughtered. So Abu Jahl, right? He's seeing his army being slaughtered, and he tries to move around, try to defend the army. And two young Ansari Sahabis, two young boys, they're looking for Abu Jahl. They ask another Sahabi, his name is Abdurrahman ibn Auf, "Oh uncle, do you know who Abu Jahl is?" And they're both brothers. So these Ansari Sahabis, they're both brothers. And he tells them, "What do you have to do with Abu Jahl?" He says, "We heard that the Prophet, he used to harm the Prophet, and if we see him, we're not going to leave him today." So when Abdurrahman bin Auf sees him, he tells them, "There's your man, there's your target." And as soon as they listen, as soon as they find out, both of them run to Abu Jahl. There's a little skirmish, and they manage to hit him down. They kill him entirely, but they're able to wound him mortally. And later on, Abdullah bin Masud finishes him off later on. So that's and one of the Ansari Sahabi actually gets injured while he's attacking Abu Jahl, and later on gets killed. So all in all, the Muslim army attacks the Qurayshi army, and they're able to essentially drive them back. 70 of the Makkans are killed, right? 70 are killed, and 70 are taken as prisoners. 70 are killed and 70 are taken as prisoners. And from the Muslim side, 6 of the Muhajirun are killed and 8 of the Ansar are killed. So in spite of being so outnumbered, it's a decisive victory. It's a decisive victory. They're able to completely annihilate the Meccan army. Now, they've captured 70 of the soldiers. And amongst these soldiers are the prize people of Quraysh, right? And the Meccans have now retreated, hurting, extremely, feeling insulted because the Muslim army, being so ill-equipped, was able to defeat them. And I have my daughter in the back who's working on her side. You can write slowly. All right, so Badr was definitely a decisive victory, right? The Muslims were, alhamdulillah, able to capture a lot of the Qurayshi leaders, and what ends up happening is they decide a ransom. They decide a ransom for that. Prophet ﷺ does a mashwara, does a consultation with what should be done with the POWs, So the Umar radiallahu anhu, he says that, we should kill them. We should execute them because they came out with absolute impunity and they wanted to kill us, so they deserve to be killed. Prophet ﷺ, however, accepts the suggestion of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, who says that no, let's ransom them, let's not kill them, let's ransom them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala later on reveals that it would have been more appropriate to actually execute them. So, however, they take ransoms from these prisoners, and some of them they're actually treated very well. None of them are tortured, none of them are maltreated. As a matter of fact, they're even given better food than what the Muslims are eating. And then eventually they get ransomed. One of the things that is set out as a ransom is the people who are able to read or write should teach 10 children of Medina reading and writing. And when that's done, they're sent back home. So that was the Battle of Badr. That was the first face-off between the Meccans and the Muslims. Now, between Badr and Uhud, there are a couple of other instances that happened, but again, we don't have time for that. One of them is there's an assassination attempt on the life of the Prophet ﷺ. He escapes that, obviously. Then there's a Jewish tribe named Bani Qaynuqa, and they're trying to plot against the Ansar and the Muhajirin, the Muslims in Mecca. So Prophet and they break their pact. Essentially, they break their non-aggression pact. So they're driven out of the city. And there's another person from the Jewish tribe called Ka'b ibn Ashraf, and he's assassinated because he's also trying to plot against the Muslims. So these are some other instances that happened between Badr and Uhud. So the next battle that happens is Uhud. So we may not be able to cover Uhud completely today, but we'll try to see how far we can go. So now the Meccans are extremely hurting, right? Because all the leaders are killed, and they've had a decisive defeat, and they want to get back. So remember the caravan that they were able to save? They gather all the wealth of that caravan, and now they're ready to get back at the Muslim army. So now they have leaders. Now the Abu Jahl is killed, Abu Lahab is killed, not in the battle, but in Mecca. And there are a couple, all the major, Utbah, Umayyah, all those leaders are killed. So Abu Sufyan is now the leader of the Meccan army. And there's Ikrimah bin Abu Jahl, who's the son of Abu Jahl. And then Safwan ibn Umayyah. These are the three leaders of the Quraysh who gather another army. And this time they have 3,000 people that they gather, right? And they have 200 camels, 200 horses. So they've got they gather even a larger army. And with them, they have about 15 women, right? Because they want to take their women folk with them so that they encourage the men to fight. So the men are even more encouraged to fight. So now, Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib, the uncle of the Prophet, the one who was captured, he's also left, and he goes back to Medina. He sends a message to Prophet, right? He sends a message to Prophet saying that they're coming with this army. So Prophet now gathers the people of Medina, and he discusses with them. We know that this is a huge army coming. There are about 3,000 people. What do we want to do? Do we want to go out and fight with them, or do we want to face them off in Medina? Now, some of the younger Sahabi, especially the ones that were not able to participate in the Battle of Badr, because remember, Badr was not an all-out battle. It was initially a raid for a caravan, so not everybody was able to participate in Badr, because they were just thinking it's not really a battle. People are just going to, defeat a caravan and get back with the goods. So they want to show their enthusiasm and their dedication to Islam. So they say, "No, Ya Rasulullah, we'll go out and fight them." Initially, the Prophet was leaning towards staying within Madinah al-Munawwara and protecting Medina from the outskirts. So when he sees the zeal and enthusiasm of these young Sahabi men, he says, "Okay, let's go out and fight." So he goes out and he puts on his armor and he comes back. Now, when the Prophet does that, the leaders of the Ansar, they feel bad. They feel sorry that maybe they forced the Prophet to do that, because the Prophet obviously had a different opinion, right? But they then tell the Prophet, say to the Prophet, "Ya Rasulullah, we'll listen to whatever you want to do. If you want to stay and fight in Medina, we'll do that. We don't have to go out and fight." But the Prophet says, once a prophet has put his armor, he's not going to take it out until Allah decides between him and the enemies. So Prophet now goes out with 1,000 men. Okay, so now the Muslim army consists of 1,000 men. All right, and now they're going out to a place on the outskirts of Medina called Uhud. Now, as this is going on, there's some amazing scenes going on, right? Everybody wants to participate in this battle, including the younger Sahabi, the teenager Sahabis. So Prophet ﷺ is looking at them, the ones that look like they're not too strong or not mature enough. He's sending them back. But there's one young Sahabi who says, "Ya Rasulullah, I may not be that strong, but I'm a great archer." So he shows him how great he shoots, how good of a marksman he is. So when he does that, Prophet ﷺ says, "Okay, you can come along." But another young Sahabi says, "Ya Rasulullah, you took him, but I can beat him in wrestling." So the Prophet ﷺ makes him wrestle, and sure enough, he beats the one who's a good marksman in wrestling. The Prophet ﷺ takes both of them. So now they're a part of that army as well. Now, at this juncture, something very demoralizing happens to the Muslim. Remember the guy that we talked about? His name was Abdullah ibn Ubay, the hypocrite. At this point, when the Prophet ﷺ is going towards Uhud, he decides that he doesn't want to fight. So he's a leader also. So he takes 300 people from the army at the most sensitive juncture where these people are going to go face 3,000 people. And then he decides that he doesn't want to fight, and he takes them back to Madinah al-Munawwara. Now his people, some of his people are pleading to him, like the true Muslims of the Ansar. They're saying, "Why are you doing this? Didn't you guys promise the Prophet ﷺ, that you will be with him through thick and thin. But Abdullah bin Ubay is able to convince them and takes out 300 people, because he's a hypocrite, right? So he takes out 300 people. So now only 700 people are left in the Muslim army, right? Now, I think we can just go on to describe the battlefield, and we can stop there, right? So the Prophet ﷺ, what he does is he goes to the Mount Uhud, right? There's a huge mountain called Mount Uhud if you've been to Madinah al-Munawwara, and that's where, and this is the Meccan army, right? They've come and they've sort of camped near Uhud. So what the Prophet ﷺ does is he actually bypasses the Meccan army and he goes behind them. So this is the Muslim army. This is the Muslim army. You have about the 700 people. And then there's a little area over here. There's another mountain, which is called the Mountain of Archers. The Prophet ﷺ has the Muslim army, the 650 people over here, right? And then he has about 50 archers. He asks them to stay on top of this mountain. So you can, when you look at this strategy, you can see the kind of military genius the Prophet ﷺ had. I mean, he was a prophet, of course, but if you look at how he had set up the battlefield, you see his proficiency as a general. So he notices that, of course, we are outnumbered army, so we have to use the advantage of the landscape, and you got to make sure that we actually trap the Meccan army. So he gets these people, he goes behind them. So now Medina is down here, right? So Medina is down here, the Meccans are over here, the Muslims are on a higher ground, and then the Prophet ﷺ has 50 archers on a mountain, and he tells the archers, no matter what happens during the battle, no matter what the outcome of the battle is, you do not leave the spot. You do not leave this spot, because this is the spot where you can actually, there's a sort of a valley in the middle, and this is uncovered. So the Prophet ﷺ knows that the Meccan army has about 200 horsemen with Khalid bin Walid, right? So, and these archers, their duty was to cover this area so that the cavalry of Khalid bin Walid is not able to attack the Muslims from the back. So this is how the army is set up. And the Meccans are basically here. You have the 3,000 people over here. And now, before the battle actually starts, there are a couple of things that happen in the battlefield, and we'll describe these instances of what happened, and then we'll stop with that. And then tomorrow, inshallah, we'll continue with the actual battle. So the Prophet ﷺ, a day before the battle, or right before the battle starts, he takes a sword and he says, who is the one who is going to take this sword and he's going to fulfill the right of this sword? So a bunch of Sahaba, they try to jump up to try to get the sword, right? Umar radiallahu anhu is amongst them, Ali bin Abi Talib, Zubair bin Awam, and these are all amazing fighters from within the Muslims. They try to get their sword, but none of them are able to get it until a Sahabi called Abu Dujana radiallahu anhu. He races them and he gets the sword, right? And the Prophet ﷺ gives it to him. And Zubair radiallahu anhu, he later says that I feel a little upset that the Prophet ﷺ didn't give me that sword. And he goes on to follow Abu Dujana to see what he does. And then we'll talk about that tomorrow, how he utilizes that sword. So Abu Dujana asked the Prophet ﷺ, what is the right of this sword? Ya Rasulullah, he says, the right of the sword is that you fight with this until you bend it. Yani you hit the enemies until you bend it. So then Abu Dujana, he takes out a red band and he ties it on his forehead. So, and people know that if he has done that, then he's basically going to fight on to death. So now everybody is set up. The battlefield is set up. One last time, the Qurayshi army, they play another card. There's a person, his name is Abu Amir bin Saifi al-Fasiq. Al-Fasiq is his title. So he was used to be amongst the people of Medina. And he deflected to the Quraysh. And he actually happens to be a father of a very righteous Muslim who dies in this battle. His name is Hanzala radiallahu anhu. And he's also known as the Ghasil al-Malaika. We'll talk about it tomorrow, what happens to him. But his son is a devout Muslim, and he's within the Muslim army. He comes out, and he's basically telling the Muslim army, yani his Ansari people, to go away and join either the Quraysh or go back and join Abdullah bin Ubay, but don't participate with the Muslims. So, but none of them listen to him. They say, we're not going to listen to you. And they stay with the Prophet ﷺ. So this is the battlefield is set. You have the Muslims over here. You have the archers over here. Khalid bin Walid obviously is not in the picture, but he's hiding someplace in the back with 200 of his horsemen. And then tomorrow, inshallah, we'll see how initially the one-on-one battle starts, and then an all-out battle starts, and then inshallah tomorrow onwards we'll continue with the Battle of Uhud. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to understand the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, and may He subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to imbibe the love of the Prophet ﷺ in his heart, to gather the lessons from the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. And inshallah, tomorrow again, we'll join at 7 o'clock, and we'll finish the Battle of Uhud, which of course has some unfortunate events that happened, but alhamdulillah, everything is khair for the mu'mineen. And then tomorrow we will also cover the Battle of Khandaq, inshallah. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلق محمد وعلى اله وصحبه اجمعين برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين والحمد لله رب العالمين واخر دعوانا والحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خير.
Hey! No! No, don't end it. Don't